Hi, welcome to another episode of B2B Marketing and More. And we talk about everything that's B2B marketing related and touch on various different topics. Today, I want to talk about copywriting and content marketing. So if you are interested in this topic, I have a very awesome guest to share with you. But if you also like the episode, subscribe and comment below. I answer every single questions you have. So I really appreciate that you can subscribe and comment below. So let's get started. We have a very special guest today, Bryan Collins. He was a full-time copywriter at Sage, and I interviewed Sage's director of content marketing, Melissa, a couple weeks ago. And now he's a nonfiction writer from Ireland. I'm going to have him talk to you about what he's doing right now. So welcome, Bryan.
It's great to be here, Pam. Thanks for having me on your show.
So talk to us what you are doing right now. You say you are the nonfiction writer. Talk to us about what that is and what you do.
Ever since I was like 9 or 10, I wanted to earn a living from writing because I read this story, The BFG by Roald Dahl.
Oh, wow.
When I became 18, I said to myself, I need to become a journalist because that's the best way to earn a living as a writer. And I studied for a journalism degree in Dublin, but I spent more time going to parties than actually learning how to get a job.
So, I would do exactly the same if I live in Dublin.
Well, it was great fun at the time. But then when I graduated, to my great surprise, but no one else's, I found it really hard to get work and I was unemployed on and off for a couple of years. And I nearly gave up on earning a living from writing. And that's how I kind of indirectly discovered copywriting and content marketing. And I was kind of able to, I suppose, reboot my writing career and start earning a living from the written word. So I got a job as a copywriter for a few publications in Ireland. And then I joined Sage, the British software company. They sell accounting software and software for small businesses about 8 or 9 years ago. I had a great career in Sage, but I had set up a website or a blog on the side called Become a Writer Today. And I was publishing informational articles about the craft of writing. And over the course of a few years, what started out as a hobby turned into a side and then a full-time business. I guess I learned a few things about content marketing in Sage as well. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. I finished up in Sage about nearly a year ago. Great company to work for, but I was 40 3 or 4 weeks ago.
You want to make a change.
Yeah.
With that being said, there are a couple things, and you touch on a couple topics I really want to talk about. One is copywriting and writing itself, and also the content marketing. Copywriting is hard. I'm not going to pretend I'm a great copywriter, but do you have any specific tips and tricks, especially for small businesses? They can afford to actually hire a professional copywriter, and sometimes they have to do stuff on their own, or their marketing team need to actually write. Do you have any specific tips and tricks that you can share with everybody in terms of how or try and strive to be a better copywriter if they can afford to hire someone?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to your question. One is copywriting, doing it yourself if you're a small business and you have no budget. And the other is hiring a copywriter if you have a budget. So copywriting is hard if you want to learn the basics. Unfortunately, there are very few copywriting courses you can take. There is an online course from the American Writers and Artists Institute. It's something called like the 6-figure course in copywriting. It only costs $500, but it's excellent. It really goes through the ins and outs of copywriting, and it's where you can learn the basics. But copywriting basically means speaking in the language of your customers, using words that they use. And at some point, whatever copy you write should have a call to action where you ask for a sale, you ask for a subscription, or you present an offer. It is a specific discipline, so something you do need to practice that, and you need to measure it with real world analytics about how your actual web copy is performing. But if you have budget, you can invest in hiring a copywriter. And if you're going to hire a copywriter, you should ideally look for somebody who has some experience copywriting, so they have a portfolio that they can point to. And you should also look for somebody who specializes in your particular niche, or niche, as they say in the United States, or industry. So an e-commerce copywriter is very different to somebody who will write a long form sales page. And that type of copywriter is different to somebody who will write an email funnel. And secondly, I worked in the B2B industry as a copywriter, so I can write about accounting software and SaaS products. But if somebody asked me to write copy about health products, I would be a little bit stumped. So you need to figure out what clients has your copywriter worked with, what's their experience, because that will help them understand your products and services better, which in turn will help them sell your products and services.
Do you actually have any suggestion in terms of which website that the small business owners or even anybody is looking for good copywriter should go to?
Finding a copywriter can be difficult. You may need to go through a traditional recruitment process, and often copywriters will have different job titles. So they may be called a content marketer, and copywriting might have been something they did for the company. So you would need to look at somebody's employment experience on LinkedIn. That said, if you wanted to find a freelance copywriter, I would start with looking on jobs boards on the likes of the American Writers and Artists Institute. You will find US copywriters for hire there. There's also a great service called Writer Access. You can find freelance writers on Writer Access, but I understand they will also provide copywriters who can specialize in specific topics. So I would try those 3 services. Now, you can use Upwork, but you're going to have to go through video interviews and you're going to have to vet the copywriter, because anybody can set up an account in Upwork, call themselves a copywriter. Doesn't mean they are.
Understood. This is great. So another thing I would like to ask you, and this is from my personal experience writing for myself. I started with a blog writing, and then I eventually venture out to create videos, and I also do a podcast, which is what we are doing right now. And I have come to realize the writing, you mentioned about the writing for different industries and the different verticals tend to be a little bit different because you need to understand the audience in order to write something that will resonate with them. But I have come to realize that different formats also matter. For example, writing for the podcast or even writing for the videos are actually very different. Do you have any thought on that?
I was only talking to somebody today about turning content from a podcast into an article. And what a podcaster might do is, or at least the new one, take the transcript and paste it as an article and wait for traffic to arrive.
I don't agree with that approach at all.
No, I learned that the hard way. It doesn't work. What a copywriter will do is something that a content marketer would also do. They will figure out the topic in advance, and then they will do the interview like you and I are chatting now. But then later on, if they have time and budget and inclination, they will figure out a topic for the article, figure out the searcher intent, perhaps using some keyword research tools. And then they will write an article, but they will take extracts from the interview, almost like a journalist, and then they will insert quotes to lend credibility to the piece. Content repurposing is fantastic. I'm all for it. If you can create content on a budget, do it. But you still need to consider your audience and who you're writing for, because somebody who's reading an email is expecting different types of content from somebody who is reading a book to somebody who's listening to a podcast. So you do need to consider all of those different formats, and it's hard to do them all well. So pick 1 or 2 that align with you and your business goals.
I 100% agree with you. I think it's actually hard to kind of take the podcast content and try to fit into a blog post. And the way that I usually do it is there are some nuggets from the podcast or some key takeaway. And I will use that, but I'm not using the transcript 100%. In a way, you're still writing kind of like a brand new blog post if you are really thinking with your audience in mind. And I 100% agree with you. Repurposing content also takes time and effort and also budget to actually do it right. Focus on 1 or 2 channels that you do well and then just, stay in your lane, right? There's another thing that you mentioned in terms of translating or converting like the episode of a podcast into a blog post, and you need to do some keyword search and you need to actually do a little bit of SEO. So what is your take in terms of in terms of SEO? And that's one thing. And second thing is, what are some of the prep work that needs to be done before someone start writing, say, a blog post?
Marrying copywriting with SEO is a match made in heaven, because you can see exactly what people are searching for and the real words they use and put that into your copy, which every copywriter should do. So I use a couple of different tools that help me with this. The keyword tool I go to the most is Ahrefs.
I use that too. Yeah.
It's fantastic. And you can also analyze sites by competitors and see what they're ranking for and reverse engineer their content. So that's helpful. SEMrush is another alternative, but I prefer Ahrefs. So what I'll do is I'll prepare a list of keywords for whatever the project is or whatever site I'm working on, figure out what topic I'm trying to address, and then map out all of the pieces of content that should address the particular topic. So for example, if I was publishing an article about self-publishing a book, I would have articles about the cost of self-publishing, articles about where to find an editor, where to find a book cover designer, how much you should expect to pay for self-publishing. And then you'll have a content plan with 10 or 15 articles that you're going to go ahead and either write yourself if you've no budget, or that you're going to commission freelance writers for. Now, if it's a piece of content that I think is going to be really valuable, so I'm going to earn an income from sales or affiliate marketing, so that's how I earn money for the business. What I would do is use a content optimization tool just to make sure that I've really aligned with searcher intent. By searcher intent, I mean what people are looking for and not what I think they are looking for. So I'll use ClearScope. ClearScope is my favorite content optimization tool at the moment.
Is that very expensive, ClearScope?
I think it's $99 a month. And for that, you can analyze 50 pieces of content. But I like it because you can create content briefs that you can send to other writers, but you can also optimize your existing content. And you can also use it for competitor research. So it pairs nicely, for me at least, with Ahrefs. Don't need to use it for everything, but if you have something that's really valuable for your blog or for your business's site, it will help you maybe tick a few extra boxes, potentially figure out what you need to do to rank for that topic.
These are the two tools that you are using, the RF and the Ahref, and the other one is a ClearScope.
Those are the two I use. You can accomplish this with other tools. I also use a spreadsheet to keep track of it all.
Totally. Everybody uses Excel file. I mean, I have a master content list, track the number of the videos I create, the number of podcast episodes I create, and also number of blogs I write. Guess what? They are all in Excel file.
Yeah, no, everything is in Google Sheets for me because the business I run is based on publishing content, and then I monetize it through display advertising. I know if I see that there's a potential to rank for a topic, I will go ahead and write and commission the article. I don't expect them all to succeed or rank, but what I find is sometimes you can over procrastinate about a piece of content, and going ahead and creating it will tell you, does Google see you as an authority in this topic, or is this something that you should move on from?
Yeah, completely understand. Speaking of the tools, so you talk about ClearScope, you talk about Ahrefs. There are many AI-based writing platforms out there, such as surelyai.com, writer.com, and many more. Have you tried any kind of AI-based tool, kind of like you brief the AI and they will start writing on your behalf, kind of like a first draft? Do you have any of that experience? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I've tested quite a few of them extensively, mostly because I'm a writing nerd and I love software. So there's loads. There's WordTune, WriteSonic, Jarvis.ai, which is great for copywriters, and a few others. And chances are your viewers or listeners have used them because when you're in Gmail and it does that weird thing where it auto completes your sentence, that is AI in action.
I 100% agree with you. You hit the core, yay! Yes. Or even actually doing a Google search and you type something and Google attempted to complete your sentences or phrase. And that's also AI in work. Yes, I agree with you.
But I think what you're asking me a moment ago was, can you get an entire article from AI content?
And also, what's your thought? What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, so my opinion is it's not quite ready for prime time. So if you're a content writer and you're any good, you don't need to worry about being replaced by robots just yet.
That I 100% agree. Yeah.
It could be different, but not right now. Now, what these tools are good for is writing meta descriptions, writing headlines, and potentially just getting the introduction quite right, that you have your keyword in the introduction. If you're stumped with any of those things, these AI tools will spit out potential introductions and a potential headline that you can then tweak. So they're kind of a writing aid or a writing prompt rather than a replacement for writing.
I 100% agree with you on that. Yeah.
Commissioning a writer for 3 or 4 cents on a budget service like Textbroker, it's probably comparable to what you would get if you pay 3 or 4 cents per word.
I speak about artificial intelligence as one of the keynote topics and in front of the marketing, the B2B marketers or at the marketing conferences. And my sentiment is very much similar to yours, that the AI is not ready for the prime time. And what AI can do is help you kind of to get, like you said, the keywords right, or start with the opening, or create a rough draft. But ultimately, the copywriter still needs to take over and edit. And after all, AI does not understand your audience, and you are the one understanding your audience and also what's your writing objective. And you need to actually take what they wrote, kind of like a first draft, and you take it and edit and optimize from there.
Yeah, it's a good point about the writing objective. So even if AI could produce a great article for you, it's not going to tell you where it fits in the customer journey and all the supplementary content and the call to actions. So yeah, that's where hopefully you fit in or I fit in.
That's a value add, right? Exactly what we provide to our customers. Another question I have is, obviously everybody's creating content, and there's so much content out there. Do you actually have any suggestion in terms of how to create a content that will stands out or break through the clutter?
Oh, I love that question. When people ask that question, it's kind of like, am I too late? Have I missed the boat?
Yes, am I too late?
No, you're not. Well, I would say to somebody who's listening to this, no, you're not too late. I was only talking to a writer on Medium this afternoon. So Medium is a platform for writers. It's a good network for writers. But he started on Medium about 20 months ago, and he's already got 60,000 followers and a couple of million views on his articles, and he's built a consulting business on the back of leads from Medium, and he only started in early 2020. So no, you're not too late. There's more and more search terms being discovered every day, more people coming online every day and using the internet in new ways. So certainly not too late to create content. But what you do need to do is get specific. So you can't just create a blog like a YouTuber and just talk about your day. It should be about something that's relevant to your audience, and that's relevant to something that you actually know a little bit about, rather than a generalist site, which might have worked 10 years, 20 years ago, but it's not going to work today.
That I 100% agree with you. When I started writing, I tend to write just because I wanted to write, and that was back in 2011. What I have come to realize after a year of doing that is I need to be incredibly focused. Mine is really about marketing. So at that time, I was trying to tap into a different marketing topics. And ultimately, my focus becomes 100% B2B marketing, or anything that's B2B marketing related, or sales enablement. And I even narrow that down to pretty much just sales and marketing alignment, and also content marketing along with account-based marketing, and just be very specific about that. But I hear you that just look at my own journey in terms of trying to be very generic or general, and I narrow it down over a period of time. So I hear you loud and clear. That was actually my journey.
Sometimes by creating content, if you're regularly, you will naturally learn what types of topics you're comfortable speaking about and which align with your business too.
Another thing I kind of want to share with the audience is, yeah, I'm a consultant myself, and there's always like different schools in terms of what channel you should try. I know that there are many people that they only focus on one or two channels. They focus it very, very well. Like one of the writers that really just started in the medium and then focus on that channel and try to build a consulting business for that specific channel. I agree with that approach, but there's another approach and try to be like trying multiple different channels and then be present on multiple channels. And I don't think there's a right or wrong way of doing that. For me, I try to be on the multiple channel and try to test on different formats of content. That has a lot to do with I need to understand multiple different content and multiple different channels so I can provide feedback or the consulting advice to my clients. Do you have any, suggestion in terms of like for writers, should they just focus on one channel and do very well in that channel, or be present or have that omnipresence on multiple channels?
I would say pick one or two channels that align with your content format that you're comfortable with, and that align with wherever your audience or your potential customers are. And while you're building an audience on that channel, so it could be Medium, could be YouTube, could be LinkedIn if you're B2B, yeah. But whatever it is, remember that you don't own your relationship with your audience there. The platform can change the algorithm like Facebook did with advertising a few years ago, and suddenly you could have to pay to reach your audience, or you could be kicked off, or just your views could drop, which happens to lots of writers. So always direct people back to your home base, which is your website and your email list. Yeah, give something away for free, get them on your email list, and then you can build up a relationship that you can nurture over time.
Bryan, you hit the core, 100% hit the core. I do agree that you need to have a presence on one or two channels, but after all, that channel does not belong to you. Your website is your platform and you own it. And you actually can control your messaging, you can control what you want to say, and build your audience on your own turf is super critical. I 100% agree with you on that one. Building your following on third-party platform, just like you said, they can change algorithm or they can kick you out, and all of a sudden you have no leverage whatsoever. I love that comment. Thank you for bringing that up. We talked about SEO and the content marketing a little bit earlier. Do you think the digital marketer or even the writers needs to be an SEO expert first in order to write? And do you have any tips and thought on that?
There are many aspects to SEO. There's on-page SEO where you're looking at the headline and the sub-headline and the words on the actual page. But then there's technical SEO, which I don't spend as much time on. And then there's off-page SEO, which I don't really do either. So, I mean, if you're actually in the act of creating content, it's good to know the basics. You don't need to become a renowned expert. But if you understand keyword research, and if you understand how keyword research is different to searcher intent, and if you understand how to build topical authority, that's usually enough to set you apart from most people who are creating content in a similar niche. And if you're a copywriter, I mean, back to what I was saying earlier on, copywriter's goal is always to speak in the words that their customers use, and SEO is a free way of doing that. So why not take advantage? That said, don't go down the weeds. Sometimes you just need to get on the phone or a Zoom call and speak to your prospects.
I think you hit the core. What you are trying to say is understand what SEO can do for you. Understand the customer's intent, understand how people search. There's a technical side of SEO that if you are not doing SEO optimization, then you don't have to worry about it. But understand what SEO can do and can help you to actually optimize your content or the quality of the content you are writing.
The other takeaway I would say is that SEO tends to be a longer term play. So it can take many months before you gain traction on a series of articles, which can be difficult if you're in a business environment because you might have to report on something every quarter or every 6 months. So sometimes you have to sell the fact that, look, what we're doing now might not see results till 6 months down the road.
That long play is like you try to get the instant result versus a long play. Yeah, you need to try to find that balance. My last question is, what are some of the KPIs to measure the success of a copywriter?
Oh, great question. When I was in Sage, we used to have a lot of KPIs. At the start of my career there, I used to rail against KPIs because it felt like they were a constraint on creativity. Now I actually really like KPIs because I think they can help anybody run an online business built around content. So I like to set a lead measure and a lag measure.
You're talking about lead measure, and what's the second one?
A lag measure, LAG.
Lag measure. Okay, talk to me a little bit about that. Go ahead.
Firstly, there's a great book that explains the concept in detail if we run out of time. It's called The 4 Disciplines of Execution by Franklin Covey.
That book is so hard to read. It's so dry.
Skip to the lead and lag measure bit.
Oh my God, this is so dry. I cannot do this. I actually had that book.
Yeah, there's one section in the book that made an impact on me. So a lead measure, LEAD, is something that you can influence or control directly. Like, for example, the number of articles published this month. Whereas a lag measure is something that you can't control, but which typically causes anxiety. My traffic or my sales or downloads. So somebody will say, traffic is down. What do we need to do? And then everybody panics. But what you actually need to do is look at the lead measure and ask yourself, how can we turn the lever so that we can publish more optimized content? And then later on, that should result in an increase in the lag measure. So if you get the two right, if you set yourself an ideal lead measure for a project, that's something you can influence, and an ideal lag measure, that's something that serves as a temperature check, then you should have a system that can help you build a type of content flywheel. So if I wanted to get more email subscribers, I could potentially do more outreach, or I could set up a paid advertising campaign or some other tactic. But if I just looked at my email subscribers and said it's dropping off and then I panicked, that's not really helpful. So it's better to look at something that I can influence the following week.
This is excellent. And thank you for sharing a lot of insights, not just on the writing, but you are looking at the writing in a very holistic way. You know, how SEO play into it, how technology play into it, and what you can do actually to optimize. We touch on many, many different tips and tricks that you are sharing with us. Love it. Love it. To wrap this up, I actually have one question I would like to ask you. So what is the show that you are binge watching right now, and will you recommend it?
The show that I'm binge watching right now is Succession, which I think a lot of people are binge watching.
I am watching that too. You know, I hate telling you, I hate every single character.
They're all terrible people. That's why I like it.
But I'm watching them, but I do not like any one of those characters. But
the writing is fantastic and the dialogue is excellent. Yeah.
It's very short, snappy. You actually have to listen and try to understand what they are trying to tell you. The writing itself, it doesn't convey directly how they feel. And it's that underlying message that you have to think about. That's what I like about the writing Succession.
They've invested a lot of money in the actual visual appeal of the show.
the whole production was flawless. Excellent. So that's a great suggestion. I love it. Any other lasting or last minute thoughts you want to share with us? Like if there's one thing for copywriting or even content marketing that a person needs to do or must do, what would that be?
If you're not using content to promote your business, your brand, or your company, it's an untapped opportunity. It may seem like everyone's doing it, but trust me, they're not. Oh, by the way, before we go, if your listeners are interested in getting some advice about the craft of writing, please visit becomeawritertoday.com and I'll send you a free book of writing prompts. And if you're interested in a podcast where I deconstruct the writing processes, many different types of writers, you can search for Become a Writer Today on iTunes and the show comes straight up.
Bryan, thank you so much for coming to my show. Again, if you like the episode, please subscribe and comment below. Love to hear from you. So that's it. Thanks a lot, Bryan.
Thanks, Pam.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Never miss an episode of B2B Marketing and More by following us here on YouTube and leave a comment while you're at it. You can also find episodes wherever you get your podcasts.